She stopped kissing me goodbye 6 months before I knew why. At first, it was little things, no more warm coffee waiting on the counter, her phone screen suddenly going dark when I walked by, the way her laughter on calls disappeared the moment I entered the room. I chalked it up to stress. 10 years of marriage, careers, routines, maybe this was just a rough patch. But I was wrong. My name's Reilly. I'm 39 years old. Born and raised in Texas, now living outside Denver. I work as a commercial contractor. I've built everything from schools to hospitals, and I take pride in doing things right, even when nobody's looking. I used to think that kind of integrity mattered in marriage, too. My wife, Jenna, worked in marketing. At least, that's what her business cards said. The woman I married was ambitious, confident, beautiful, the kind of person who made rooms tilt slightly in her direction. And I loved her. God, I really did. But something had changed. At first, it was easy to gaslight myself. She's just busy. We're both tired. Marriage isn't a movie. But then came the late nights, the mysterious strategy sessions with her team, the smell of someone else's cologne on her coat. And yet I didn't confront her. Not because I was weak. Because I wanted to be sure. So I hired a private investigator. Quietly. A guy named Cliff, former state trooper, the kind of man who didn't say more than he had to. I told him I needed the truth, no drama, no confrontation. Who do you think she's with? He asked. I didn't even hesitate. His name is Marcus. Her ex from college. Cliff raised an eyebrow. You sure? No, I said. But if I'm right, I want to know everything. And I meant everything. 2 weeks later, Cliff sent me a package. No signature required, just a plain manila envelope dropped into my locked mailbox while I was at work. Inside was a USB drive, a handwritten note, and a stack of glossy photos that felt like they'd been dipped in acid. Didn't take long, the note said. You were right about Marcus. And she's not even trying to hide it. The first photo hit me like a punch to the ribs. Jenna, my wife, in a wine bar I didn't recognize, leaning across the table, hand resting on Marcus's forearm, her head tilted back laughing at something he said. Her smile in that photo was one I hadn't seen in years. The second showed them leaving together. His hand on her lower back. Hers on his chest. The third, I stopped breathing. Them. Kissing. Not a polite peck, not an awkward moment of temptation. No. This was two people with history. Deep, burning, intimate history. And Jenna, she looked like she belonged there. I didn't yell. I didn't call her or send a nasty message. I didn't march into our bedroom and demand an explanation. Instead, I poured myself a drink and sat in silence. The kind of silence that comes after a detonation. The kind that tells you your life has just split in half before and after. That night, she came home late. Smelled like wine. Said her meeting ran over. Then she kissed me on the cheek for the first time in weeks. I stared at her. Calm. Cold. Long day? I asked. Exhausting, she said, slipping off her heels like nothing was wrong. She didn't notice the envelope tucked in the back of the drawer. Didn't see that I'd stopped wearing my wedding ring. Didn't know I'd already moved half of my savings into a private account. Because proof isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Strategic. And now I had it. I knew everything. And I was done playing the fool. I spent the next 10 days preparing for my disappearance. Not revenge. Not yet. Just absence. Vanishing from her world without a single warning. No fight. No scene. Just a clean, cold exit, the kind that leaves a void so quiet it becomes unbearable. First, I called in a favor with an old buddy, Mitch, who ran a cabin rental up in Estes Park. He owed me one. I'd helped him rebuild his deck after a wildfire ripped through the area 2 summers ago. Told him I needed a place for a while, no questions. Marriage stuff, he asked. Something like that, I said. I'll pay cash. Second, I visited the bank. Opened a new account under a business entity I'd set up years ago but never used. Transferred just under the reporting limit, nothing that would trigger alerts. I moved enough to survive comfortably. The rest? I'd let her stare into the whole of our joint account and wonder. Third, I cleaned out my home office. Flash drives. Deeds. Passports. Family heirlooms. Every piece of leverage I might need. Jenna always joked she didn't understand that man cave of wires and paper. She wouldn't notice a thing missing until it was long gone. I even moved some files from my work laptop to a cloud drive she didn't know existed. Just in case. On a Tuesday morning while she was at spin class, I loaded up my truck with 2 duffel bags and a stack of documents. Left the house like I was headed to the job site. But I never came back. Instead, I drove straight to Mitch's cabin. No GPS, no phone location. I'd turned off my tracking services a week ago. Let her stare at the little gray bubble and wonder why it wasn't moving. At 7:12 p.m. that night, I scheduled an email to Jenna. Subject line, no words left. Attached, digital copies of the divorce papers I'd already filed, complete with my signature and a note from my lawyer. Then I powered off my phone. For the first time in 10 years, I felt light. Not free yet, but close. Very, very close. The first message came at 6:04 a.m. the next day. Adam? Where are you? By noon, there were 5 more. Why are you doing this? Is this a joke? Call me. Right now. Adam, this isn't funny. I got your email. What the hell is this? I sipped my coffee slowly on the porch of the cabin, watching the sun rise over the Rockies. Mitch had stocked the place with everything I asked for: firewood, bourbon, silence. I didn't respond. By 8 p.m. she was calling from her mom's number. Then from Marcus's. That made me laugh. The man she cheated with was now the man helping her try to locate the husband she'd discarded like an old coat. I imagined the two of them sitting on the edge of our bed, my bed, panic crawling up their throats. She hadn't seen this coming. Because women like Jenna never do. She expected drama. Rage. Maybe even begging. But what she got was absence. No sound. No explanation. Just her own reflection staring back at her from an empty house and a closed door. My attorney, Daniel, was already in motion. The divorce was airtight, no kids, no shared debt, the house deed was solely in my name. I'd paid the mortgage. Jenna had contributed nothing except complaints about how bland the kitchen was. Now, she had 30 days to respond or the court would finalize without her. Daniel called later that week. She lawyered up. Seems surprised you're not answering her calls. She's going to be more than surprised soon, I said. Because here's the thing, I hadn't even gotten started. She thought the worst part was that I left. She had no idea the real blow hadn't even landed yet. And when it did, she wouldn't just lose me. She'd lose the carefully curated life she built on my back. On day 8 of my silence, Jenna tried to take the house. She filed an emergency motion claiming abandonment. Said I'd left without warning, that she feared I might liquidate assets. Claimed she deserved temporary control of the home, my home, the one I bought 5 years before we even met. Daniel called, chuckling. She's painting herself as the victim now. Wants exclusive possession of the property. Says you're unstable. I grinned. Did she mention Marcus? Nope. No mention of the boyfriend. Typical. But I was ready. I had receipts. Surveillance footage from Cliff's investigation. Timestamped photos of her with Marcus at the hotel on 9th. Restaurant bills charged to our joint card on nights she told me she was working late. She wasn't careful, just arrogant. Daniel filed a response that same day. It included everything. The affair. The PI report. A sworn affidavit from Cliff. And a little bonus, a notarized letter from Marcus's ex-girlfriend confirming Jenna had been messaging him months before our marriage started crumbling. See, what Jenna didn't know was that Marcus wasn't just sloppy, he was loud. And now he was about to be exposed too. I pictured them reading our response in some polished law office, Marcus blinking as his name appeared in black and white under Respondents Exhibit C. And Jenna. I knew that look. That icy panic behind her perfect makeup. The moment when the mask slips and she realizes she's not in control anymore. A hearing was set for the following week. Daniel asked if I wanted to attend. No, I said. Let her stand there alone. And she did. According to Daniel, the judge shredded her petition. Called her claims inconsistent, her conduct concerning, and denied her motion entirely. She tried to cry in court, apparently. Didn't work. Per Jenna. She thought she could betray me and still live under the roof I paid for. Now she'd have to find somewhere else to sleep. Preferably Marcus's couch. Right where she belongs. 3 nights later, Marcus messaged me. Yeah. Marcus. He found one of my old social media profiles, one I hadn't used in years, and sent me a private message like we were 2 high school rivals trying to clear the air over a beer. Hey man. Can we talk? This thing with Jenna, it didn't start how you think. I stared at the screen for a full minute before laughing out loud. This man snuck into my life like a cockroach, slept with my wife, and now wanted, what? Understanding? I didn't reply. I had a better idea. The next morning, I forwarded Marcus's message to Daniel and had Cliff do a little digging. Turns out Marcus had more than skeletons in his closet. He had lawsuits. 3 women, 2 exes, and 1 coworker had filed harassment complaints against him in the last 5 years. Nothing stuck, but the pattern was loud. Loud enough that Cliff didn't even need more than a day to gather statements. I compiled them, neatly packaged and timestamped, and sent the file to Jenna's attorney. No threats. No demands. Just information. 2 hours later, Jenna called from a blocked number. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. Adam, I didn't know about all that. If I had known, I never. Look, this is getting out of hand. Can we just talk? Please? That word, please, from the same woman who used to roll her eyes when I asked her to stop texting Marcus late at night, it hit different now. I played it twice. Then deleted it. Actions have consequences, sweetheart. You don't get to blow up our life and then ask to sift through the ashes only when it starts burning your fingers. And Marcus? Well, he was about to learn the hard way that getting what you want isn't the same as being ready to keep it. Jenna had chosen him. Let's see how long she could survive without the man she never truly appreciated until he was gone. She came to the cabin. I don't know how she found it. Maybe Mitch mentioned something without realizing, or maybe she just guessed. But one morning, as the fog was rolling down from the peaks, I saw a silver SUV pull up the gravel drive. She got out wearing that Longton coat she always saved for serious conversations. No makeup. Hair in a messy bun. Like she thought looking disheveled might sell sincerity. I didn't open the door. She knocked anyway. 3 times. Then again. Louder. Adam. Please. I just want to talk. I stood behind the curtain watching her shift from pleading to frustration. This is insane. You can't just disappear. We're married. I nearly laughed. We're being the key word. She pounded again. Then her voice cracked. I made a mistake, okay? It wasn't supposed to be like this. Marcus, he's not who I thought. He's gone. He bailed on me the second this got messy. I didn't flinch. Just let her words hang in the cold air between us. Jenna collapsed onto the porch swing, the same one we'd sat on during that weekend retreat 3 years ago when she told me she wanted to start a family. Now, she was sobbing into her hands like some grieving widow mourning a marriage she buried. I thought he loved me, she whispered. But he just used me. You were the only one who ever really. I opened the door. Just enough for her to see my face. No. She blinked. What? No, I repeated. You don't get to cry here. You don't get to bring your guilt to my doorstep like it's some stray dog looking for a home. Her lip trembled. I thought you might still. Still what? Love you? I shook my head. Jenna, I loved us. What we could have been. But the woman standing in front of me? I don't even recognize her. She looked like she wanted to scream, but held it in. Good. I'd seen enough of her drama to last me a lifetime. I closed the door gently. Not a slam. Just enough for her to know it was final. And through the wood, I heard her whisper, I don't know who I am without you. That made 2 of us. She came back 2 days later. This time she didn't cry. She didn't knock either. Just stood there next to her SUV, arms crossed, like she had a right to exist in my air. I'm not leaving until we talk, she said when she spotted me stepping outside with my coffee. I didn't reply. Just walked to the edge of the porch and leaned on the rail, mug in hand, soaking in the view behind her, tall pines, soft mist, the kind of stillness you only get when you've cut the cancer out of your life. You're being cruel, she said, stepping forward. I finally looked at her. Cruel. You won't answer my calls, you won't respond to my lawyer. I'm trying, Adam. I'm trying to fix this. Fix? I repeated. You think this is a flat tire? Something we can patch and drive on. She bit her lip. That fake guilt act again. I never stopped loving you. I set my mug down slowly. Walked down the steps and stopped a foot away from her. You never stopped loving you, Jenna. I was just the man holding up your mirror. Her mouth opened, but I didn't let her speak. You needed to feel adored, desired, praised. And the second I got tired of clapping from the sidelines while you found yourself with your ex-boyfriend, I became disposable. I was confused, she said weakly. No, I replied, voice cold. You were calculated. You lied. Repeatedly. You slept with someone else. You made me feel like a stranger in my own home. And now you want closure. She nodded slowly. I stepped back and gestured around us. This is closure. Jenna's shoulders slumped. She knew it was over. Really over. And that no amount of crocodile tears would save her now. She got back in her SUV and stared at the steering wheel for a long time before driving off. I watched until her taillights vanished through the trees. Then I exhaled. That chapter, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the lies was over. But the final page, that still had to be written. And when I wrote it, it would be permanent. By week 4, Jenna had gone from smug to shattered. Her Instagram, once filled with filtered brunches and inspirational quotes about growth, had gone radio silent. Mutual friends told me she was going through something, but I didn't offer details. Let her explain why her husband vanished and her new boyfriend ghosted. Then I got the text. From an unknown number. You don't know me, but I think you should. My name's Lisa. I used to date Marcus. I thought you should know he's not just a cheater, he's a con. I raised an eyebrow. Called her. Lisa didn't hesitate. I was with Marcus for 3 years, she said. He cheated, lied, used my credit cards, even tried to get access to my savings. It took me months to untangle myself from him. When I saw your wife's photo on his Facebook, I recognized the pattern. Why tell me now? I asked. Because he did it again. And I don't think she knows. That night, Cliff confirmed it. Marcus had a quiet little side hustle. Draining women financially while promising forever. He had a trail of short-term leases, joint credit applications, and fake business schemes. And Jenna? Well, she'd signed for a line of credit 3 weeks into her little reunion with Marcus. She thought she was running off into a Nicholas Sparks movie. Instead, she was just another Mark. Could have called her. Could have rubbed it in. But instead, I sent one envelope. No return address. No note. Just a photocopy of the credit agreement Marcus had opened in her name. $28,000 limit, already half spent, and a withdrawal from their new, shared account for a business that didn't exist. And then I waited. 3 days later, she left another voicemail. Tears again. Hysterical this time. He used me. Adam, he stole from me. I'm so sorry. I messed up. Please help me fix this. But what she didn't realize, what she'd never understand, is that I wasn't her fixer anymore. She built her new life on lies. Now, she could live in the ruins of it. Alone. Jenna tried one last move, the sympathy tour. She started showing up to mutual friends' houses, painting herself as the abandoned wife whose husband just walked out one day. No mention of Marcus. No mention of the affair. Just mascara-streaked tears and vague references to emotional distance. It might have worked too, if I hadn't already gotten ahead of her. 2 weeks before I left, I'd met privately with 3 couples we'd known for years. Told them the truth. No drama. Just facts. I'm not asking you to pick sides, I said. I just want you to know what actually happened. Because a storm's coming. And she'll be the one holding the umbrella while pretending to drown. They appreciated the honesty. So when Jenna started her act, it didn't land the way she hoped. Her crocodile tears dried faster than expected. Then came the real blow. Remember that house? The one she tried to claim? I put it on the market. She called, furious. You can't do this. I lived there for years. Correction, I said calmly. You lived there with me. You forfeited your right the moment you started playing house with Marcus. I'll fight this, she snapped. I'll drag it out in court. I already knew she couldn't afford that. Not anymore. Her credit was trashed, her accounts drained, and Marcus? He'd vanished the moment she confronted him. Probably halfway to Arizona by now, preying on his next target. You do what you need to do, I replied. But just remember, the longer you stretch this out, the more paperwork gets submitted. The more receipts get attached to your name. And the deeper that financial hole becomes. Silence. Then a quiet, bitter, you used to be kind. No, I said. I used to be naive. Now I'm just done. She hung up. That was the last real conversation we ever had. And it felt like closing a book I should have never started reading. What Jenna never understood is that the worst thing you can do to someone who loves deeply is make them stop. Because once the switch flips, there's no going back. I wasn't her safety net anymore. I was the reason she'd never fall that softly again. The divorce was finalized on a rainy Wednesday morning. Daniel sent me the papers with a simple subject line. She signed. No fuss. No court fight. No split assets. She didn't even contest the house sale. Why? Because she couldn't afford to. She'd lost her lawyer a week prior. Fired him, apparently. Probably after realizing he couldn't save her from herself. I'd heard through Cliff that Marcus had wiped her out. Not just the credit line, he'd convinced her to invest in a branding agency that didn't exist. $14,000. Gone. And now she was renting a basement apartment on the edge of town, working remote freelance gigs and pretending on social media that she was finding herself. Sure. What she was actually finding were consequences. The night the papers were filed, I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat outside as the rain slid off the cabin roof. No celebration. No dramatic moment. Just stillness. That's the thing about real closure. It's not loud. It's not explosive. It's quiet. Clean. I wasn't angry anymore. Not even bitter. I was done. Done remembering how she used to smell when she curled against me in the dark. Done wondering what I could have done differently. Done believing the version of her I fell in love with still existed somewhere underneath the rut. She didn't. That man, the loyal husband, the steady builder, the one who stayed and tried, he had died a long time ago in that marriage. But something better had taken his place. A man who knew his worth. A man who didn't need to scream to be heard. A man who walked away not to escape her, but to reclaim himself. And that, I realized, was the real revenge. Not punishment. Not payback. But freedom. The kind of freedom she could watch but never touch again. A month after the divorce, Jenna did what narcissists always do when they lose control. She started rewriting the story. It started with a blog post. Some self-pitying piece on Medium about emotional abandonment, navigating heartbreak, and how some men disappear instead of communicating. Friends sent it to me with raised eyebrows. "She's got some nerve," one of them texted. Another said, "Bro, she left you for her ex and now she's the victim?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She was drowning in her own fiction, scrambling to find an audience that might still clap. But the thing about lies? They decay fast under scrutiny. Her post didn't go viral. It went flat. And just as quickly, it disappeared. Deleted without explanation. Then came the next phase, the rebrand. New Instagram handle. New photos. Posing in coffee shops with motivational captions. "Sometimes we grow in the shadows we create. Give me a break." She was branding herself as a survivor of the very chaos she orchestrated. And yet, none of it made me mad. In fact, it made me feel something close to pity. Because while I was out in the real world, rebuilding a life from the ground up, Jenna was still on her phone, chasing sympathy from strangers who didn't know the first thing about what really happened. But people talk. Word gets around. And eventually, the truth surfaces. One of her old coworkers reached out to me privately. "You did the right thing, Adam. She used to brag about Marcus behind your back. We all saw it." Another message came from a girl I didn't even know. "I matched with Marcus once. He gave me serious scammer vibes. Just wanted you to know you dodged a bullet even if it didn't feel like it at first. But it did now. It felt like clarity. Like the last pieces of the illusion were burning away, leaving nothing behind but facts. She cheated. She lied. She lost. And now? She was the only one still trying to pretend there was anything left to salvage. Something strange happens when your mind finally stops spiraling, when the pain settles and the rage fades and all you're left with is peace. Not silence. Not numbness. Peace. The kind you feel when your phone doesn't buzz. When no one's lying to your face. When you sleep through the night without wondering who she's texting in the bathroom. I hadn't realized how heavy it all was until it was gone. I moved out of the cabin and into a modest 2-bedroom house near Boulder. Nothing fancy, hardwood floors, lots of light, space to work with my hands again. I built my own desk. Refinished the back deck. Started picking up contracts again, this time only the ones I wanted. And for the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving. I was living. I never reached out to Jenna again. But I heard things. She left Marcus's name off her lips entirely. Claimed he wasn't what she thought, like he was a surprise package gone wrong. Her little pity parade faded. People stopped replying to her dramatic social posts. Mutual friends distanced themselves quietly but firmly. She tried to rebuild an audience, but the stage was empty now. And me? I stopped being the man she left. And became the man she'll always remember. The one who didn't beg. Didn't scream. Didn't chase. The one who vanished with dignity, took the truth with him, and left her face to face with the wreckage she created. Sometimes revenge isn't a firestorm. Sometimes it's just absence. And the knowledge, deep and inescapable, that you were the problem all along. I had nothing left to prove. No score to settle. And yet, one final move still lingered. Something quiet. Something permanent. Something she'd never see coming. The final piece came from a conversation I didn't expect. Daniel, my lawyer, called on a Thursday afternoon. His tone was curious. "You ever think about sealing your divorce record?" he asked. "Didn't know that was an option," I said, leaning back in my chair. "It is. especially when there's infidelity involved and reputations are being manipulated. It's a quiet move, but powerful. Powerful how? Because right now Jenna's trying to control the story. When people can't access the facts, she fills in the blanks. But if you file for record protection and the court grants it, suddenly the drama vanishes. She can't weaponize your name anymore. That got my attention. We filed the petition that same week. Cited privacy, reputation, and the confirmed infidelity. The court approved it within 10 days. It meant that from now on, if anyone tried to dig into our divorce, reporters, gossipers, potential new victims in Jenna's life, they'd hit a wall. No juicy records. No ammunition. Just a sealed file stamped private by court order. That's what finally broke her. 2 days after the ruling, Jenna messaged me from a new number. You had the record sealed? Why are you trying to ruin me? I didn't answer. Because I wasn't ruining her. She did that herself. I was simply closing the curtain on her performance, cutting the power to the spotlight she craved so desperately. Now, if she wanted to tell her version of events, she'd have to do it without proof. No screenshots. No paperwork. Just words, the kind that unravel fast when the people around her already stopped believing the show. Jenna had always lived for the audience. Now she was playing to an empty room. And me? I was already thinking about the next chapter. Not revenge. Rebirth. But first, one final move. Clean. Sharp. Icy. The kind of ending she'd never forget. I never said goodbye. Never left a note. Never gave her one last word to twist or cling to. I simply erased myself like a ghost who'd gotten tired of haunting his own house. But the final act? It came on a Tuesday. I was standing in line at the coffee shop when I saw her. Jenna. Hair shorter. Face thinner. Eyes duller. She looked older. Worn. Not from time, from consequences. She didn't see me at first. She was on her phone arguing with someone. Her voice was sharp, desperate. Just give me until Friday. I'm waiting on a deposit. The guy behind the counter, Liam, I think his name was, raised an eyebrow at her. Ma'am, your card was declined. That's when she saw me. Our eyes met. I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just nodded once. Calm. Steady. She looked like she'd been slapped. Frozen. Like she was waiting for something, a word, a smile, anything. But I said nothing. I paid for my coffee. For hers too. Not out of kindness. Out of dominance. Out of the knowledge that I was walking away clean while she was left standing in the ashes of the life she tried to build off my name. I dropped the receipt on the counter. As I passed her, I leaned in just enough to whisper. You don't lose a good man, Jenna. You push him out the door and he never looks back. Then I walked out. Into the morning air. Into a life where her name no longer lived in my mouth or my mind. She betrayed me. But I didn't burn down her world. I let her do it to herself. And that was the real revenge. No shouting. No screaming. Just a sealed file, a cold shoulder. And the silence that said everything she didn't want to hear. I didn't need to destroy her. I just needed to leave. And never be found again.